Hey everyone, welcome to episode one, and probably more of an introduction than anything, but welcome to Over the Top with Chris. I'm your host, Chris, and YouTube isn't my specialty. I watch a lot of things on YouTube, stream a lot of things, especially when it comes to Led Zeppelin. But I just felt compelled over the last little bit, being at home, working from home from a bit, and sort of being trapped at home for a bit. I felt compelled to want to get out there and spread the joy and love of Led Zeppelin, but more specifically, the love of bootleg Led Zeppelin. Something that tickles the fancy of a lot of mainstream Led Zeppelin listeners, but even young or old, people are not very well aware or not very appreciative of the live concept or the live stature of Led Zeppelin. Recently, I came across a Sony Sports Walkman, and for 30 bucks was able to transport myself at least 30 years in the past and reconnect with cassettes, or more specifically, my connection of Led Zeppelin bootlegs. I have a bag that I've been collecting since 1990 of all my Led Zeppelin bootlegs, and a friend of mine, Michael, that I went to school with in Ottawa, who I dare say was a bigger Led Zeppelin fan than I am at the time. And anybody who's known me for many, many years knows that's impossible. Nobody's a bigger Led Zeppelin fan than I am. But Michael turned me on to the world of Led Zeppelin bootlegs, and I was hooked instantly. And what I will do as this channel hopefully continues to grow and continues to evolve into what I hope is a lover's paradise, but maybe just my look back at Led Zeppelin and Led Zeppelin bootlegs. And hopefully I can turn a few listeners. Hopefully I can gain a lot of subscribers. And who knows where this guy will go, guys. I'm just hoping that, I can share to you something that's really, really been near and dear to me for the balance of, 30 some odd years almost. And something that I've maintained a collection of. And so this first episode is really kind of just an introduction, and an introduction to Led Zeppelin bootlegs and where it came from. And, my love of bootlegs came from that initial sort of foray with my friend Michael. I can't even remember the first one he gave me. I want to say Brussels 1980. One of the very last shows on the very last tour that they ever did. Almost a renaissance or rekindling of Led Zeppelin of sorts. And we'll probably get into a lot of those later shows as we go along. But really what it comes down to, what I wanted to give to you guys in this first episode was, what does Led Zeppelin mean to me? If you look behind me, you can see, yeah, I'm a big hockey fan. But really one of my biggest passions has always been music. And from my earliest days of, having my father and my brother influence me with the groups of the 70s, including Zeppelin, Sabbath, The Doors, Hendrix, all those things that I was weaned on. I never had a bigger appeal or a bigger listening enjoyment than sneaking into my brother's room and grabbing physical graffiti, or Presence was one that I used to sneak a lot, and listening to those albums on my own time, stealing his cassettes, stealing his very first Walkman, much like the one that I found here. And my love of Led Zeppelin just evolved from that, and it became a passion, almost an obsession for me. Anybody who's known me for as long as I've been saying knows that Led Zeppelin has been sort of my higher power. But it wasn't until my teenage years where I really discovered my love of not only Zeppelin, but the love of the live concert, the live bootleg. And it goes more beyond the song remains the same from the 73 Madison Square Garden set, or from, a lot from How the West Was Won from 72, or even the live, How the West Was On companion DVD Blu-ray. There's some really good snippets in there. You've got Danish TV, which we'll cover in one of our earlier episodes. You've got some snippets of Earl's Court, probably Zeppelin at their very finest, probably the peak of their powers in 75. So really, we're going to delve into all those years, and we're going to, episode by episode, really take hold of each concert. Hopefully, as I gain some more subscribers and some followers and even some listeners, and hopefully if I turn some of you guys, into Zeppelin fans or bootleg fans, you can make some suggestions. But as it is now, it's really comes down to somebody turned me on to this book when I was about 17 years old, the Illustrated Collector's Guide to Led Zeppelin Bootlegs. And it's literally every bootleg of every concert they ever recorded, almost from 68 through 80, and even ones after between. I'm actually recording this on the 35th anniversary of Live Aid, probably one of the most non-memorable Zeppelin performances out there because it was so sloppy. But nonetheless, a great memory, something that I remember very vividly, sitting in front of the TV, July 13th, 85, when I was living in Paris. I grew up in Paris. And not knowing that Led Zeppelin was going to reunite, that Phil Collins played his set in England, flew over on the Concorde to Philadelphia, and reunited with Jimmy, Robert, and John, and Tony Thompson as well. But, you know, Led Zeppelin to me is still one of the bands, you know, despite not having been relevant for such a long time, is still probably at the height of their popularity. I still see on social media, and I still see everywhere. Lots of people engaged in listening of Led Zeppelin, and even on some of the YouTube sites and companion sites that hopefully I'll be able to partner up with, you know, showcase bootlegs. You know, I showed you guys the Walkman with the cassette bootleg. Those bootlegs, I used to go to a store in Ottawa called Bogey's Records in Rideau Street and pay about $10 per bootleg. And sound quality, some of them sounded like they were recorded in the washroom, which they probably were, and some of them were, you know, master source soundboard recordings. But nonetheless, I was able to start branching out into all sorts of, you know, different years and different eras of Led Zeppelin, and my collection sort of spiraled from cassettes into CDs as CDs gained more popularity for bootlegs, and then European imports, and then that spiraled into eBay, you know, and I used to buy bootlegs, you know, I wouldn't say on the black market, but, you know, they were hard to get, and I would buy European imports, you know, from all over the place. And eventually, you know, as the 2000s turned into the 2010s and such, somebody suggested, like, dude, they're all on YouTube. And guess what? They are all on YouTube. And that was a really great way, as somebody who's, you know, very digital yet still very hands-on with a lot of this stuff, a great way to really go out and grab some favorite bootlegs and really hear some that I haven't heard. A lot of the sites and hopefully ones I'll be able to partner with as we go through, we'll be able to share some of their catalog and some of the greatest years. I'm a fan of the 77 era. I thought they were very raw, very in your face, and very, let's say, on fire. You know, a renaissance of sorts. I found that every tour Zeppelin reinvented themselves, and not reinvented the wheel, but reinvented their sound and reinvented their everything that they did, and they always built upon stuff, and every show was better than the last. But I've always been very partial to the 77 stuff. So, you know, I would say that's about it, guys. I mean, you know, it'll become a lot more polished as we go through. You know, obviously this is just me introducing myself to you guys, and through this channel. And every week my goal is to, you know, introduce a new bootleg, and we're not going to go in any type of chronological order. We'll just go all over the place. And next week, I hope to post this up. I'm going to try to do these weekly on my days off from work. And the first bootleg we're going to touch on is the Fillmore West 1969, one of my favorite bootleg recordings. Because the sound quality was so good on this one, but that the set list was incredible, and features a lot of really good old favorites, you know, from the very first album, pre Zeppelin 2, and even pre Jimmy getting the Les Paul. These were done on the Telecaster, one of the very last performances before the Les Paul started to make its appearance on that second tour of the United States and North America. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank you guys, to anybody who goes out and subscribe. I don't have any subscribers right now, and I'm hoping to at least get 5 before I post up next week's episode. But yeah, if you know, you're curious and you want to know more about Led Zeppelin, you can contact me in the comments section below. Just hit the like, hit the subscribe, share this with as many people as you like, and stay tuned for next week's episode of Over the Top with Chris, where we delve into our very first Zeppelin bootleg, Fillmore West, 1969. Thanks for coming. Stay safe.